Hi, everybody. Welcome to the RSJI community event. My name is Khingz. I would like to start this off with some land acknowledgement. As start today's program, you recognize that the city of Seattle and the surrounding areas um, are indigenous lands. Seattle is the ancestral homeland of the Duwamish people. These lands and waters also hold ancestral significance to the Muckleshoot and Squamish tribes and other Coast Salish speaking tribes, including the Tulalip. We also recognize that land acknowledgement are only an acknowledgement of the dispossession of land from Native peoples, and that greater actions are needed to address the impacts of colonization. I like to open this up with a quick piece that I wrote years ago called From Slave Ships to Spaceships that I thought was apropos for today. I was raised in a place that's so lost, people struggle to run in place and don't get far. We all pay before asking the cost. It's still in our hearts and it's turning us hard when your family's broken. There's always the gang. Those yelling liberate, I feel, are ignoring the pain. Those who claim the streets are ignoring the same, but claim to really feel it for the financial gain. My life's like swimming with shackles. I'm such a fallen angel with wings of blood, and I'm still brawling. Tried to escape, could only leave her by crawling. The gang, my first love, could only leave her by crawling. Lost so many friends to the set, and we were convinced that an early death was our best destiny. The earth hates and rejoices when we don't breathe. Said the earth hates our face and rejoices when we don't breathe. So when they say yes, you gon' die here, I say no, we gon' fly here. When they say yes, you gon' die here, I say no, I'm gon' fly here. Hold on, stay strong. Hold on, stay strong. Hold on, stay strong. Hold on. Heartbroken by a life I can't handle. The harder I fight to breathe, the more I'm strangled. The more I fight to be free, the more shackles. Every time I think I'm me, there's more mass though. Me and my people in the bottom of a slave ship, claiming different colored chains to bang as a way, which will give us some pride and die as cargo in a basement. Never knowing there's air above we ain't tasting. And I want so bad to feel that. Sea breezing sun, not wood on Khalil's back. Heart turns to iron, maybe from the chain's contact. I want the stars in the sky in my palm, so I combat. We ain't born to die, we born to live, but only for a little while, so we have more to give. Anything against that, I must resist. My expression is a middle finger turned into a fist. When they say yes, you gon' die here, I say no, we gon' fly here. When they say yes, you gon' die here, I say no, I'm gon' fly here. Hold on, stay strong. Hold on, stay strong. Hold on, stay strong. Hold on. A struggle ain't a struggle if it's easy. You got the muscle and I love you, please believe me. I will struggle till y'all don't need me and then only rest till you reconceive me. These be my flows, my heart, my soul. I lost my home, still I fight on. And I will battle against what they gaffled us with. Handle your biz. You can stand on the fence, but it won't save you when the hammers are click. You can stay a slave, but your master is sick and he's breaking us in the heart of a slave ship. He's chaining us and my heart, it can't take it. All it really takes is the strength that you bang with to hop out your chains and walk on your spaceship. When they say yes, you gon' die here, then I say no, I'm gon' fly here. When they say yes, you gon' die here, then I say no, we gon' fly here. Hold on, stay strong. Hold on, stay strong. Hold on, stay strong. Hold on, stay strong. From slave ships to spaceships, that means liberation. From slave ships to spaceships, that means liberation. Thank you so much. I appreciate everybody who's tuned in today and doing this whole virtual thing with us. I'm going to give a shout out to Hollis, we're going to move over to her. And I love you guys. Thank you so much.
Hey, just want to make a ton of noise for Khingz, who opened up our opening ceremony of today's Community Day. Thank you so much, Khingz, for sharing your artistry, your gifts. I feel so grateful that I have been led by your artistry in my own artistic pathway. And I just want to give you your flowers for being such a pioneering artist here in Seattle. To that your artistry and the passion that you bring to stage or the screen is something that's palpable and vital and needed. And I'm always inspired by you. So thank you so much. And we're so lucky because Khingz is actually going to be back hosting the second half of our program, the Reflections Dance Festival. And he's going to be joining us for a couple of conversations prior to that as well. So Khingz, we'll see you in a little bit. Thank you so much for your fantastic performance and more to come. Hi, everyone. My name is Hollis Wong-Wear. I'm really, really excited to be here today and thankful to be brought into community for us to share here at the Race and Social Justice Initiative 2023 Summit. This is a 2-day summit, and this is the second day, Community Day. So we're bringing in community. We're weaving together conversations about Indigenous sovereignty, Black liberation, BIPOC solidarity, racial equity, and pandemic recovery. And this year's themes are healing, belonging, and unity. So today's the day, Friday. Thank you so much for popping in and joining us. We'd love to hear where you're tuning in from in the chat. What neighborhood are you in? How are you feeling? Give us like a one-word description of the vibe that you're holding inside as you're joining us today. And so just so that you know the spread, we're going to be having a bunch of different programming, videos, and special guests joining us all around the topics of civil rights, healing, belonging, and unity. And I'm happy to be your host, but I'm not doing it alone. And I'm so grateful to have a fantastic co-host. So I would love to bring Emily P. Lawson on the stage with me right now as I read her illustrious bio. Emily P. Lawson is National President Emerita of the Filipino American National Historical Society and co-author of Filipino Women in Detroit. She works as the Preservation Program Support Specialist for Culture in Seattle, Washington. An oral historian and spoken word performance poet since 1990, she has appeared on radio and stage throughout the United States and Manila. Let's give it up for Emily P. Lawson. Hey, girl, it's so good to see you.
Hi, Hollis. Hi, sister friend. Thank you so much for that nice introduction. I feel like I need to introduce you too. I know it wasn't in the lineup, but I am going to do that because you are the most amazing singer, songwriter, musician, speaker, creative generator, and community advocate. And you live between Los Angeles, where I used to live, and Seattle. Hollis is the lead vocalist of the electronic R&B trio The Flavor Blue, which I love, and was Grammy nominated in 2014 for her work with Macklemore and Ryan Lewis. With her roots in spoken word and slam poetry through the nationally recognized Youth Speaks program, Hollis is passionate about how creativity and the arts fuel and shape civic discourse, and is dedicated to lending her voice and capacities towards vibrant social equity. And you can find her and book her at holliswongwear.com.
Too true. Thank you so much, Emily, for reading that through. And it's wonderful to connect with you here. You know, I think that we've all had to adapt, obviously, with the pandemic and its after effects and the way that we continue to ripple. And folks, even, I'm got to give a shout out to our illustrious leader, Davida Ingram, who has been holding us down and who brought us all together to partake in this. But I think Davida has been like a great signifier of the fact that, you know, and demonstrating that through the organization of this, like, it has been a type of obstacle and in many ways a type of trauma and a pain and a hurt that we've held with the pandemic. And on the flip side, it's created opportunities and possibilities for us to connect in new ways, to find out how to make technology more accessible, how to make technology more equitable, and for us to gather in ways that we didn't used to do before. Emily, what kind of is on your mind today as we're heading into this program?
Exactly. Thank you for that. I just want to give a big shout out to Davida as well, Davida Ingram from the Race and Social Justice Initiative, Office of Civil Rights, and everybody who's put together this whole 2-day community summit, Race and Social Justice Initiative Summit. I tuned in yesterday actually through the virtual stream, and it was amazing. Dr. Ben Danielson, Mama G, everybody, the food sovereignty panel, everything was just really, truly amazing, and really uplifted my spirits because it has been traumatic. It has been hard as a mother, you know, as an artist, as a person of color, woman of color during the pandemic. You know, yesterday there was a discussion about how this is not the first pandemic that communities of color have gone through. Right? Racism is really the first pandemic, and I would agree with that. And I just really enjoyed all the program yesterday and really looking forward to today's program lineup too. And shout out to Khingz for holding it down yesterday.
Period.
Yeah, and going to do it again today.
Exactly. We love to see it. So our program is really focusing in on the voice of young people. And we're really excited that on deck, we are going to have Why We sharing some insights and tuning in live. So that's on deck. But before we get into that, we're very, very excited to have a special guest to help us open this program, Councilmember Tammy Morales. So everybody bring some love and energy to our virtual stage today. Hello, Councilmember Tammy Morales.
Good afternoon.
How are you feeling today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and really, really thrilled to know that this event is happening again, and excited for all of you, for the artists, for the young people, for the city family, that this work continues to be elevated and highlighted.
Excellent. Well, you've joined us here today, and I've heard that you have an update for us about the RSJI ordinance. So I'd love for you to break down for the audience, first of all, what is the RSJI ordinance? Obviously, we're here today to gather in support of it, but I'm curious if you could just break down what RSJI is and its just a pocket history, and then share what your updates are. And you have the floor.
Sure. Well, thank you. So yes, we have been working on this for quite some time. Even before I was elected when I was a human rights commissioner, I participated in a racial equity toolkit to understand the city's role and obligations in trying to advance race and social justice in the city, knowing that this initiative had been on the books for quite some time. So when we came into office, we were successful in getting SLI, legislative intent, in the budget to really start to understand this work. We formed a task force to discuss the components of what the city is doing to keep moving forward. And one of the first things that was identified as a priority for the people within the city who work on racial and social justice within their different departments is that this initiative that's been on the books for a while really needs to be codified. So that's the work that we've been doing at the beginning of 2023. After a long internal conversations within the city, we have finally passed it. It passed out of committee this morning in my committee, which I'm very excited about. And as I said, it really is historic. It's been 5 years in the making. So I want to thank the staff at the Office of Civil Rights. Our Council Central staff has been working for a long time on this legislation. The mayor's office has been very supportive and working to make it a reality. And I think it's important to remind us that it really is about the principles of the Race and Social Justice Initiative becoming part of city law. So those principles include undoing racism, analyzing power, learning from our history, and all of these are crucial to the work of the city, because we know that as an institution, we can't do the work of undoing racism, of establishing anti-racist practices, unless we're willing to acknowledge the historical role that this institution has played in creating inequity. And this is not unique to Seattle. We are in a country that has 400 years of slavery and punishment and disinvestment to make up for. So this is important work. As far as the city family goes, if we can create a culture of racial equity in our city departments, then we can use that racial equity lens to do all of our city work better to best serve Seattleites. And so this is really an opportunity to challenge ourselves as public servants to redefine what the city looks like, what kind of city we want to be, the kind of future we want to build for our children, the kind of communities we want to create for our elders, to make sure that everyone is healthy and safe, and really, really excited that this is moving forward.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing this incredibly exciting and, dare I say, historic update, this policy that has passed through. I think it's really a testament to the belief in the importance of a racial equity lens that isn't just a department or one initiative, but really is a framework by which we understand the way that we come together as a community. Right. So just before you go, what are the next steps, and are there any ways that folks in the city of Seattle can plug into this work?
So as I said, it just passed out of my committee today. The ordinance will come before the full council on I believe it's April 18th. And then it will be city law. So I'm very excited about it. We will be discussing it in full council in a few weeks. If you want to make sure that your council member votes the right way, you can certainly call or email and let them know that you support this. And we'll be excited to be moving forward and make sure that we are supporting all of our city departments in doing this work and making sure that it is well integrated into the work we do and into the culture of the way we operate as a city.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Councilmember, for joining us, for breaking it down. Thank you for your tremendous leadership and your work. And I think that's a really great call. I mean, we should all be getting in touch with our council members regardless, right? Yep. So thanks so much for sharing your time with us this Friday afternoon. Have a much deserved, wonderful weekend, and congratulations again on the movement.
Thank you so much. See y'all later.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care. Awesome. Well, I'm really excited for our next point of programming. We have a short film, essentially, that is a collective of perspectives from the organization Why We. And this is actually compositing participants from Why We and talking about their ask to the city. If young people were able to do one ask to the city, what it would be. And so, yeah, I'm excited for us to watch this all together. And then we're actually going to be able to bring in some perspectives from Why We to have a conversation live. So go ahead and hit that video.
Members and Zoo. So the pandemic was the most mentally low and isolated and lonely I've ever been, like as long as I've been alive. I went from having all this stimulation and seeing all these people to just being like completely inside with my 2 family members and Zoo. So eventually, I was regularly in therapy, had been before, but eventually my therapy sessions started phasing out because our schedules got extremely busy. And eventually we just stopped seeing each other and my mental health went down. But even then, like my friends who hadn't been on therapy before that were doing even worse. We would have conversations where they would tell me about their struggles and I would be like, you should talk to an adult, you should talk to a therapist. They would be like, well, I can't get on therapy because I'm like on all these waiting lists and I just can't get in. There just wasn't access, or only so many therapy places take Medicaid, that sort of thing. So my ask for the city is that there be more widespread access to therapy and mental health resources, especially for young queer people, disadvantaged folks in lower income communities, and specifically people of color.
One thing that I think a gift of COVID brought was kind of having to wake up to a lot of injustice in our world, specifically around institutions that aren't great for people of color, specifically African Americans. And I think that just knowing that a lot of Black people have that gift of resiliency really empowered me, and I felt very uplifted during that time. Having to live in a world where people have kind of forgotten about that resiliency, specifically non-people of color, and still living with the threats that were in COVID, but people of color not taking that seriously has been really challenging. My ask to Seattle is for them to be more open to non-police centered legislation, and possibly funding more money from the police into things like education and affordable housing.
COVID was a hard time for all of us, not being able to see our family and friends, technological problems, and constant boredom. My ask for the city is to host more community events so we can engage with others.
COVID has caused a mental health crisis. Teens and kids are losing a sense of belonging, and there's a lack of mental health support. There's an overflow of need for inpatient, but not enough beds, staff, therapists to help adolescents. If you ask a teen who's been hospitalized, you'll hear a story of someone who was sent home after days in the ER because there just wasn't enough room. My ask for Seattle is to focus on helping and supporting mental health staff and spreading awareness on how to get the help you need.
The one word that would describe my experience during the pandemic was adaptation. Moving across the country from Virginia was really difficult, but I've gained a lot of new experiences, and through that I found a community that supports me. I've also gained insight into the world around me, as well as finding my passion in healthcare and research. My vision of a thriving city is a place where it's clean, healthy, safe, and equitable. Through my experience volunteering at the hospital, I've seen patients not being able to fully recover due to insurance issues. My ask for the city is universal health care for everyone.
Excellent. Thank you so much, YW. And I want to give a shout out to filmmaker Futsum Sagai as well for compiling that and making it happen. And I'm so excited to bring on the youth from YW. What's up, YW? How y'all doing?
Hi, what's up, YW?
Hi.
We love y'all.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us. Would love if we could just go around and y'all could introduce yourselves and let us know what's going on wherever you're at.
Yeah. Do you want to, we'll start with Vatra and come around?
Sure.
And kind of angle yourself towards.
No.
Yeah, step into the frame. And maybe say your name, pronouns, and like one word that describes how you're feeling today.
All right. Hi, my name is Patra, she, her, hers pronouns. And I'm feeling pretty tired today, but like calm.
Hi, my name's Jory. I use he, they pronouns, and I feel excited.
Hi, my name is Athena. I use she, they pronouns, and I feel like wiggly. Is that?
Hi, my name is Soria. I use she, her pronouns, and I feel very sore. It's okay.
Yeah, Sabine, do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, hi, I'm Sabine. I'm Soria's mom. Support her.
And hi, I'm Reagan. I'm the co-executive director of Young Women Empowered. My preferred pronouns are she and her. And I'm feeling really grateful that we're together and that we have this opportunity for youth to speak truth to power.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Are y'all in the Hillman City office now, your new office down there? I saw that. I grew up down there. It's so nice to see you all in that space. My number 7 bus was right across the street there. And our friend's Archipelago restaurant is right next door, a couple doors down. So thank you. I just want to ask you all how it felt to be able to do that film, to express your feelings and your ask from the city when you made that film.
And I'll just say, when y'all are answering, if you could step closer to the screen so that our AI interpreters can hear you clearly.
Anyone can answer.
Well, okay. Scooting forward. Is this better? Okay. Hi. I guess like my big feeling was kind of like I had like butterflies in my stomach. I'm not really used to making asks of people. Well, I have like a background in like climate activism, so I guess I do, but I was like not great at it. I mean, I was good at the activism. I wasn't good at the asking. You know, we would lobby, and I would always get like bullied down by legislators. So I was nervous, but it was also like kind of cathartic to be like sharing how I was feeling about the pandemic, because people talk about it like it's over, and to me it's not over. So yeah.
Sorry, George, do you want to? Hello. For me, I was so nervous being on camera just because I've done a lot of video work, but I'm never on camera. I'm usually recording. It was a lot of fun, and it's just never something I've ever done before to be like, hey, this is something I think the city should be doing. And so I just thought it was really cool to be able to get to do that and be like, please fix this. Yeah.
Awesome. Does one more person want to share? Yeah, I saw you coming through. Come on up.
I guess my experience for filming the video, I was really nervous. I never really like filmed something like that, so it was very different, and it was kind of hard to think of what I wanted the city to probably do after the pandemic. And yeah, but it was like, I'm proud that I did it. It was great.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we're all very, very proud of you all. Great work. I'm just going to recap a little bit for those who may just be joining us. And if you are just joining us, you could say hi in the chat to Why We or to any of us. You could tell us what neighborhood you're logging in from or anything like that. But in your video, you said that your ask for the city was for more widespread therapy and mental health resources. I think I agree with that. Moving funds from police into education and affordable housing, more community events, and universal health care. I think we can all get on board with those asks of the city. So thank you, Why We, for your great leadership in this area.
We appreciate you so much, Why We. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Reagan, for facilitating. Thank you for holding it down. We're sending you so much love and appreciation. And I would just echo, you should definitely feel very, very proud of yourselves for stepping up, for being courageous, and for speaking your truth. And it's so important for us to be led by y'all's voices and perspectives. So everybody say farewell to Why We. Thanks y'all so much. Appreciate it.
And those of you tuning in, if you don't know Why We, you can go look at their website. I believe it's ywe.org or y-we.org. Somebody can place that in the chat for me. That'd be great. All right, what do we have up next, Hollis?
Cool. Well, first of all, we should make some noise for our fantastic interpreters as they switched over. Really appreciate you both for coming through and making sure that we have accessibility. So we're going to move on to our next segment. And we're going to be showing a clip that was done with a Seattle leader, an Indigenous leader named Matt Remley. This clip was inspired by a Summit blog interview with local Seattle area activist and father, Matt Remley. Matt shared that along with addressing the scars of colonization, Seattle could get deeper into healing by ending our crisis of murdered and missing Indigenous people. Remley explained that when we use fracking for our city, it can fuel violence from man camps that wring Indigenous ancestral lands. So on March 1st, Youth from Clear Sky Native Youth Council visited a Seattle school board meeting with mentors to ask for a special proclamation addressing murdered and missing Indigenous women and Indigenous people. So Carlos, if you could play this clip, we'd really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I am a family member of missing and murdered Indigenous women and people. To my right is my cousin, Rocinda Strong, and to my left is my niece down here, Iviana Lakota Cortez. Iviana was murdered in Burien by a drive-by shooting, her and another 13-year-old girl in 2018. My cousin Rocinda went missing October 2nd of 2018 as well, and was found 275 days later in a freezer abandoned. As of this year, we had 393 missing Indigenous people just since this year. This month alone, we had 138 missing, which is a 3% increase from last month. A total of 22 missing Native Americans, 5 were adults, 2 were males, and 3 were women.
The statistics listed in the Missing or Murdered Indigenous Persons Awareness Day proclamation proposed speak for themselves. These sorrowful and violent acts must come to a stop, and in order to prevent injustices from reoccurring, education and awareness must take place. I stand in firm alignment with this proclamation, and I will continue to support my students at Clear Sky Academy.
To know that if we do go missing or if we do get murdered, that we might not get as much attention paid to our cases as other kids are is a very scary feeling. If you look around at any one of us, many of our families have been victims of MMIW cases. Any one of us could be next. Any one of our family members could be next.
When you go home at night, you're just you. When we go home at night, we're still missing our children, our mothers, our fathers.
I am a senior at Ingram High School. I am the Ingram's Urban Native American and Alaska Native Club president and an intern at UNIA and a Clear Sky Academy student, as well as a sexual assault survivor. MMIWG, Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. Since the onset of colonization, Indigenous women have experienced violence with reckless abandon. Today, it is a health emergency, an epidemic, and a crisis of over 500 years. You can't be absent in these issues. You must engage to make effective change. It's not enough for just natives to care. We are literally only 2% of the US population. I urge Seattle Public Schools to take action to restore power to Indigenous survivors. Please take part in restorative justice, raise awareness to call on justice for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls by supporting and embedding UNEA's MMIWP proclamation with no expiration date. Every statistic represents a Native woman. No more stolen sisters. Native women and girls deserve safety.
So we just want to thank so much the Clear Sky Native Youth Council for not only their leadership in the midst of this heartbreaking epidemic, but also to continue to raise their voices and to rally their community, as well as do a call of accountability and witness for all of us to recognize that this violence is unacceptable and our silence is complicity. Emily, I'm curious what is coming up for you. I mean, I felt really emotional watching not only obviously the bravery, but obviously the heartbreak of the Clear Sky Native youth and the adults that were there to advocate with them.
I mean, seriously, that was so powerful. I just want to thank the whole crew who worked on that. You know, as the auntie of Native, Indigenous, Filipino, what we call Indopino youth, you know, it's just it just breaks my heart to see that trauma and the community going through that. So shout out to Matt Rimley and the whole crew for bringing that to our attention. I think you could learn more about it. There is a website, and I saw some things on Instagram too. So for those of you who may be on different social media platforms, please check it out and show some support.
Absolutely. And yes, hopefully we can drop in the chat where we can go to connect more, to learn more. And our call to action is really that, in the spirit of healing, what can we as folks that live in Seattle, who work in Seattle, who make community in Seattle, what can we do so that Seattle stops being the US city with the highest rate of murdered and missing Indigenous people?
Right.
I think, as Khingz said earlier at the beginning of this program, like, a land acknowledgement is just that. It's an acknowledgement of harm caused. How are we galvanizing? How are we catalyzing our own communities so that we're paying attention to this and recognize that it is on us to be accountable?
Right, right, exactly. Thank you.
Of course. Okay, well, we're gonna just have a little musical interlude before we go to our next segment, which is going to be the Civil Rights Roundup. And I am gonna let you take it away, Emily.
I get to introduce you now. So yes. For those of you who may not know, I lived in Detroit for almost 20 years and worked very closely with the late great Grace Lee Boggs, a Chinese American philosopher who died in 2015 at the age of 100. She was an amazing organizer and most known for her work in the Black Power movement with her partner, James Boggs. And some of you may know the book, The Next American Revolution, Sustainable Activism in the 21st Century, that she co-wrote with Scott Kurshige. And you may have seen Scott yesterday during the first day of the RSJI Summit. So today, now we're really pleased to be able to share with you a video, a song. Grace actually imagined a future that many younger generations dream of living in. And our co-host, Hollis, Wong-Wear, actually made a video song in honor of Grace Lee Boggs. So take it away here.
Eyes flickering, mind flittering like the neon light she was born above. She lived a way she had never seen done, carved a path beyond the concrete lines, in solidarity and sacrifice. Grace Lee knew there was better ahead. Grace Lee said to fling our vision open wide. Change is inevitable. We gotta reimagine everything. Reimagine everything. Move past factories and fallacies to cultivate who we are inside. If we grow our own, we can hold our own. Use our hands to build a world where we belong. A revolution born within a song. Grace Lee knew there was better ahead. Grace Lee said to fling our vision open wide. Change is inevitable. We gotta reimagine everything.
know if I ever got to tell you, I absolutely love that video. And, when you talked about it with Scott, and it's just a great tribute to, Grace Lee Boggs, and she would have loved it. She loved music, and that was a great honor to her. And I love the artwork and everything about it. Your voice just beautiful. And Grace, she actually, predicted a lot of what we're going through now in the pandemic and recovering from it. And there's a meme going around now that takes one of her quotes that says, "The only way to survive is by taking care of one another."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Grace Lee Boggs said that, years and years ago, way before the pandemic. And when the pandemic hit 3 years ago, almost exactly 3 years ago, that was something that a lot of us shared because she just had so much great insight as a philosopher, as an activist. And it's true. The only way to survive is by taking care of one another. And so thank you for sharing your gifts and for paying tribute to Grace Lee Boggs.
Thank you. It means a lot to me. I appreciate the RSJI Community Day for giving a platform to my artistry and my work. And I think the point that you just made is so perfect as we move into this second part of the program. That collective care is really top of mind. And when we talk about healing, belonging, and unity, these themes all come together into our collective care. Grace Lee Boggs, I didn't have the privilege of meeting her before she passed on, but I feel her presence and her vision so strongly for myself to guide my work as both an artist and an advocate. And I think moving forward, it's really about how are we making sure that collective care is embedded in the fabric and the framework of not only the way that we gather, but also within government, within the city, and just kind of like a call out and back to the RSJI ordinance. How are we making sure that equity and care and belonging are stitched through each element and not just a standalone thing? So with that, we're going to be moving into our civil rights roundup, and we have a fantastic live guest that we're going to be bringing in to share her insights, which is Sahar Fathi, who's the policy director for the Attorney General's office. But before we get into that live conversation, we're going to show a video interview with two civil rights leaders. So the first is veteran advocate and ACLU Washington Executive Director Michelle Storms, who's going to break down where civil rights come from and why they remain important. And then Brennan Center Special Counsel Yuri Rudinsky is going to be sharing insight on voting rights. So let's roll that clip.
All right.
Hello, participants of the RSJI Summit. I am so happy to be here with you, even if it's virtually. My name is Michelle Storms. I'm the Executive Director of the American Civil Liberties of Washington State. I've lived in Seattle for 30 plus years. I'm from California originally, and both in my professional life and in my personal life, my commitments are to social and racial justice.
My name is Yuri Rudinsky. I'm a senior counsel at the Brennan Center for Justice, where I'm an attorney in the democracy program, and my work focuses on understanding redistricting systems, other rules and regulations that impact fair representation, and advocating ultimately to change those systems and to secure fair and equitable outcomes.
When I think about trends in civil rights, it feels important to me to step back for a moment and ask about where these rights come from. So we live in a country in which the words we say are equal justice for all, but by design, by creation, those who wrote the Constitution didn't actually mean for that to apply to everyone. Those were people who often owned Black people in enslavement. Those were people who had displaced or committed genocide against Indigenous people. So we have to understand the history to understand trends in civil rights today. And the work that I do, the work that I think we all need to do together, is to recognize that there are groups in our society who have not had benefit of these promises of civil rights to begin with.
When we look at the way that our political systems are set up, when we look at the way that voting laws have been set up, when we look at the way that district boundaries are drawn, it's clear that not all communities have an equal opportunity to make their voices heard. And that is particularly true for communities of color.
One of the things that I would say I have seen as a trend in civil rights and civil liberties, I'm sad to say, is backlash. If we think about the movements of the 1960s and the civil rights movements to get the Voting Rights Act and to really provide inclusivity for Black people and other people of color, many gains were made during those times, and we're starting to lose some of those between Supreme Court cases and laws that are being enacted all over the country, and very much so in the southern states. A lot of those rights are being rolled back.
And of course, this country is built on the premise that our government should reflect its people. It should look like the people that are being represented. It should think like the people who are being represented. And of course, it doesn't take much to look around and to see that there is a disconnect between who holds office and the experience that they come from, and the communities that they come from, and the people as a whole. So unfortunately, the struggle for voting rights and ensuring that this high ideal on which this country is premised is actualized is linked with the struggle for racial equity.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Big thanks to Michelle and Yuri for sharing their perspective and for the important work that they do. But without further ado, we're going to bring on our special guest that we're going to be in conversation with to talk about civil rights as it pertains today. So please, everybody, make some virtual noise for Sahar Fathi. Hi.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Peace, Sahar. Thank you for joining us today.
This has been an amazing evening. I've been watching a little bit behind the scenes. Really incredible. You all are doing amazing work.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm going to let Emily take this away, but I just wanted to restate that Sahar Fathi is joining us as the policy director for the Attorney General's office. And so it'd be great, we just can't wait to hear more about your perspective and where civil rights are sitting today. Go ahead, Emily.
Yeah, so I was going to just give you a minute to just introduce yourself and want to help us talk about policy and pandemic recovery. We're talking about civil rights backlash, reproductive justice, trans rights, surveillance, bodily autonomy, immigrants' rights, wherever you want to dive in.
Yeah. There's a lot going on, right? It's been so much for a long time. And it's hard to sort of like jump in quickly on anything. I maybe just to start out, I am the daughter of two immigrants. I am Muslim and Iranian. I'm a mom, which feels weird to say on here. I have two babies. And I would say like there are a lot of things that scare me and my lived experience and what I hold all day and about what the future holds for my kids every day. I thought, I might chat a little bit about what the policy team does, and then maybe just like a specific story to just sort of tee off something, recent things that are still happening. My space is really like the work that I have largely done is largely in the immigrant advocacy space, Muslim space, but our team touches a lot of these issues. So I work for the Attorney General. A lot of folks are like, who is the Attorney General? And the Attorney General, he's responsible for representing the whole state of Washington. He's an attorney, and he has hundreds of attorneys who work for him, and they represent the departments, the commissions, the agencies, and sometimes the Attorney General's office also represents the interests of the people of Washington. So sometimes you will see, for example, the Attorney General sued President Trump over the Muslim ban. And that was because we had Muslims in Washington state that were impacted, that were being hurt by the Muslim ban, and he was protecting the people in the state of Washington. The policy team works with people who have lived experience with advocacy organizations, with government agencies, with research institutes, anybody who sort of touches policy work. And we work together to sort of think through what are new ideas and solutions to problems that might be presenting themselves in systems. Our policy team in the AG touches immigration, criminal justice, sort of hate crimes, sexual assault, domestic violent extremism, environmental justice, military and veteran legal issues, youth bullying, missing, murdered Indigenous women and people, jails, organized retail crime. We sort of run the gambit on a lot of ideas and a lot of work. And a lot of what the team does is it takes in input from all of these communities to make sure that when there's a question like missing, murdered Indigenous women and people, how do we sort of make sure we're providing a policy solution that is inclusive of all the voices who should be at the table? So I told you my family is Iranian. When I started in this job just a couple of years ago, literally 2 years ago, I want to just preface this. I got a phone call one morning on a Sunday morning, and it was from Iranians, and it just started teeing off for the next 2 or 3 hours from Iranians across the state, telling me that there were Iranians being held at the border of our state in Canada. They were held for 12 hours, over 100 Iranians who were US citizens, who were legal permanent residents. They were interrogated for their religious beliefs. They were interrogated on their political preferences. And they were not allowed to have an attorney. This was, you can probably remember 3 years ago pretty easily. It was very recent. And it was people who were from this country being told they couldn't come back into the country. And Customs denied it and said it never happened. And then, a Freedom of Information Act request went out, and we found out that it did. And I think I say this because I think a lot of us in policy work, we have those lived experiences. That's what drives us. But I also, one of the things that I've been really holding as more and more we hear these things about reproductive issues, about, missing, murdered Indigenous women and people. We hear about immigrant rights issues. We hear about trans sort of rights being taken away. And I just want to hold a little bit how hard it is, how hard it can be to be a person from that community, to still be a part of this organizing work and hold that lived experience, and how important it is to sustain the folks who are doing that work, who are organizing on the ground, that this is it's really a marathon. This is not a sprint. And that it's really important to have self-care. It is important to make sure that we are taking care of each other. I really loved that quote, that the only way to survive is to take care of one another. I think that is so critical in policymaking in all of this work. I ended up giving you a speech instead of a 3-sentence answer.
Oh, that's all good. I'm an oral historian, so I could just listen forever. And you're telling a good, important story, and actually answered a couple of my questions I already had. But can you tell us, how do you think we can make all of this information? Because it's a lot, it's very important. And actually, your detention story reminded me of my own in-laws who are Japanese American, who were detained immediately as well during World War II. And we have that never again saying, but it is happening again, right? So how can we make this info more relevant or relevant for young folks and our community today? We have young folks and community folks joining us today. And so how can we make all of this information relevant for them?
Yeah. I mean, some of this is you are building your own narrative, right? You're building the story. You are retelling a story that was told for you that didn't include you to begin with. I was at this event. I got asked I was really grateful to be asked to speak at this event led by youth a few weeks ago. It was so amazing. I mean, I couldn't believe how incredible it was. And I stood up and I said, after watching this event, I feel like I can retire. I'm good to go to bed. I look forward to you changing the world. You are kicking butt. Am I allowed to say that? And I have so much hope for my kids, right? For what you all are going to do, how you're going to challenge us. And I had been speaking about the Muslim ban, right? So when I started out a few years ago, the Muslim ban happened. My family is Muslim. And there, Iran was specifically named as one of the banned countries, and I'm an attorney. And so when it happened, we had sort of a rapid response in the airport, and a lot of attorneys went down to the airport to volunteer 24 hours a day for months. This was happening. And I was one of the ones who would go early in the morning before work. I went at 4:30 in the morning before work because I couldn't deny where I came from, right? Because like in spite of my day-to-day and my family and all the other things, I knew that there were people who looked like me, who came from where my parents came from, who came from my family, who came from where my friends and my people come from, and they were landing in that airport, and that I had the ability to interpret for them, to show them where to go, to tell them what's going to happen next. And so I was telling these youth this story about how I couldn't deny my heritage and how I was working to improve systems and how I was helping people like find their loved ones and explain what was happening, and how the next morning I would just get back on light rail and I would go back to work. And I said that this is my story, but it is the symptom of a greater story, right? And that is the story of racial inequity in this country. That my story of having, my people not be allowed to come into this country being banned, or being on the border and watching people be detained, right? Like that story is just a symptom of racial inequity. It is not even the full thing, because that, like the way the system was built is with racial inequity, and it's constantly morphing into these different iterations that we are seeing today. And so, when you say like, how do we make this relevant? I think everybody has their story to tell. And if we think back, a lot like what Michelle was saying in her video, if we think back on history, we are all united in this way, right? We all have those impacts, and that we are sort of creating this precedent. And that really, if we want to create that meaningful world, if we want that sort of ability to achieve everything that our parents were supposed to achieve when they came here, everything that sort of makes up the point of a democracy, that really, that is what unites all of us. And I say this a lot, I think now, after having seen so many events put on by youth, that I am ready for you to tell me where to go, really, for you to tell me what's up, and to show me what this country is actually supposed to achieve and look like. I look forward to it. I think it is relevant, and I think you all are doing it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We have maybe one more minute, and so I just wanted to give you a chance to say whatever else you want to share, but also what's your vision for this advocacy work? How do we work towards a world of thriving communities where we all belong?
Yeah. I mean, look, my vision has always been that the only way we succeed is if we're all at the table, and if the table is built for all of us to sit at it. I think it is about sustaining the work. It is about taking care of each other. It is about self-care, taking care of yourself, and that it's not a marathon, or it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And I am grateful for the people that are in my life, the people of color in my life who are like me, who help me stand up on my hard days, and that really, that is what we should be doing for each other all the time, lifting each other up, supporting each other in some of the harder moments, so that we can really achieve the greatness that I know is coming.
Absolutely. I just want to give a shout out to my Families of Color of Seattle support group, our disability parents, parents with children with disabilities, where I actually did learn a lot about Muslim American families, as you were saying. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having
and
me.
hope to see you continue a lot of this work. Thank you.
Thank you, Sahar. Really appreciate you joining us, and for your vulnerability and your advocacy work.
Anytime.
Sending you love.
Good luck. Have a good weekend.
Bye. Excellent. Well, we're going to switch it up really quick, and we're actually going to do a bit of a pop quiz. So sometimes we think about civil rights as large, sweeping movement work, but civil rights truly starts at home. And so we're actually going to play a civil rights trivia game, and we're welcoming in Seattle Office for Civil Rights Enforcement team member Tess Honan, who's going to lead us in a quiz. Hi, Tess. How's it going?
Hi,
Hello.
Tess.
Hi. Happy to be here.
Welcome in.
Thanks so much for taking time. Well, we're really excited. I'm a little nervous. I'm not going to lie. Quizzes,
Yeah,
pop
me
quizzes
too.
make
Right.
me a little
Yeah.
nervous.
Former professor here. Hey, Tess.
Well, then a pop quiz should be great.
Okay.
Excellent. So Carlos, if you could share those slides with us, and Tess, feel free to just kind of introduce how did this quiz come to be?
Yeah, so this quiz was originally developed to kind of get a foothold in the understanding of how well Seattleites knew their civil rights. I have to say, like personally, before I worked for the Office for Civil Rights, I did not know about a lot of our laws. So the Seattle Office for Civil Rights, we enforce Seattle civil rights laws, which include everything from protections against discrimination in employment, public places, housing, and contracting. We also enforce the all-gender restrooms, the ban on providing conversion therapy to minors, and closed captioning laws. Our investigations are free, and we assess people with filing claims. So we can hit to the next slide. One back. So we are about to play How Well Do You Know Your Civil Rights?
All right.
Okay, next slide. So our first question is true or false? It is illegal to discriminate against someone based on their immigration status.
I'm going to say true.
I'm going to say true too.
All right, next slide. True. As of 2022, it is illegal to discriminate against someone based on immigration.
Only 2022?
This was a newer protected class. Yes. All right, next slide. So a protected class is a group of people who have a common characteristic and who are legally protected from discrimination because of that characteristic. So the next question is, can you name 3 protected classes in Seattle?
Protected classes.
So like immigration and citizenship are one of the protected classes.
Immigration and citizen. Okay, common characteristics.
Race and ethnicity.
Okay. Yep, those are 2 separate ones. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
race and ethnicity.
Yep.
Tess, can you explain the difference between race and ethnicity for us?
Yes. So if you're filing it for racial discrimination, actually, as of 2022, we also had an amendment to include hair texture is part of race-based characteristics. So you can't discriminate based on someone's race. And ethnicity we also have nationality too. So not nationality, but I guess your ethnic identity, however you, if there is any instance of discrimination in those categories I said before, housing, employment, because of who you are, because of how you identify ethnically, then you would, that is illegal.
We got some answers in the chat going on, and
Thanks
shout
so
out
much. Oh yeah, let's see what's up in the
let's
chat.
see.
Kathy Shea
Oh,
from the
yeah.
Office of Arts and Culture. Yay.
We're asking, is religion one of the protected classes?
Or
Yes.
race, gender, disability.
Yep.
Wow, our chat is
y'all got it.
popping.
Sujin Chan says sexual orientation.
Yes. Yep.
Awesome.
I have test anxiety too,
We are
Sujin. I feel
acing this.
If we go to the next slide, we can see.
Chelsea Wang says religion. Yeah, we said that one, right? Oh,
So these are all Seattle's protected classes,
right.
and Seattle is one of the cities with the most protected classes in the nation. So we protect against age discrimination, ancestry, breastfeeding in a public place, color, caste, creed, disability, gender identity, genetic information, immigration and or citizenship status, marital status, religion, national origin, pregnancy outcomes, parental status, political ideology, race, sex, sexual orientation, use of Section 8 certificate, use of a service animal, and military status or veteran.
all right. Kathy Shea got that cast up in here.
Yeah. All right, next slide. Okay, first in time or first come, first serve requires landlords to offer housing to the first qualified applicant who provides a completed application.
I know this because I just did this. It's true. It is true. So you got to get your application in right away.
Yeah. If you go to the next slide, we can see that is true. First in time requires landlords to provide notice of their screening criteria to applicants and to offer tenancy to the first qualified applicant who provides a completed application.
Awesome.
Right.
And just want to give a shout out to Janelle Hicks and Carmen Groshong in the chat, who also guessed true. I didn't know that.
Y'all know
was
your Seattle civil rights.
Yes, I appreciate that.
Listen, I'm a renter, so that's very helpful to know.
Yeah.
But I feel even more pressured to get that application in. No procrastination.
Okay, so now
there is a question though. I'm
yeah.
sorry, Tess. There is a question in the chat from and I hope I'm saying the name right. Sancha Romy. How does the protection against citizenship apply to Native preferences based on Native nation citizenship? That's a good question.
That is a great question. For any, I can put my email in the chat, or you can find. I have our contact information on the last slide of here. We are happy to give us a call, send us an email. You can come to our office in person. We're happy to answer any specific questions.
Word. Yeah. Thank you. All right.
Okay, so for the last question we have, it is when renting, no pet policies also apply to service animals. True or false?
I'm going to say false.
I think that's false. That's got to be false.
All right, go to the next slide. That is false. So the definition of a service animal in the city of Seattle is very broad. You're not required to have any training or certification, and no pet policies do not apply to service animals, which means that you cannot charge a tenant pet rent for a service animal.
Oh, that is good. Disability justice in effect there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So here's a QR code and a link to the full survey. If you just got a taste and you want to keep challenging yourself, you can go ahead and use that link.
I'm just going to read it for our audience there. The link is actually www.surveymonkey.com/r/know-your-rights-2022.
Yes.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
That was great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was fun. I definitely learned some stuff. I'm very impressed. Our chat is active and they know their stuff. So thanks y'all for joining us. Thank you, Tess, so much for joining us. And thank you for all of the work that you do at the Office of Civil Rights.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Excellent. Well, we're moving right along, Emily. And before we get into the next program, the next segment of this program, I just want to shout out that at around 5:50, 6 o'clock, we're going to have the Reflections Dance Festival, which is hosted by Perla Perez and Khingz. And it's going to be 4 different performances from amazing BIPOC dancers, and just stay tuned for that for sure. It's going to be a sumptuous feast for the senses.
Yeah.
And provocative in all ways. So I am excited that we are going to be actually hearing about the summary, because we're at the closing ceremony essentially of the RSJI Summit. And so we're actually going to turn it over to 2 folks that have been following along and making things happen, Ana Pinto de Silva and Jennifer Mankoff, who are going to join us both to present about what's been going on with the RSJI Summit. So I'm going to bring Ana Pinto de Silva up to stage. Hi, Ana, how are you?
Hi. Peace.
And here is Jennifer Mankoff. Hello, Jennifer.
Hello. Hi.
So how did the RSJI Summit Day go yesterday?
It was enchanting. It was inspiring. It lifted us all up. It was such a joy to be in community with everyone yesterday.
Excellent. Would love for you each to introduce yourselves and just say a bit about yourselves before we jump into the slide deck that you've prepared for us today.
Golly. Okay. I guess I'll just jump in. My name is Ana Pinto de Silva, and I am a professor at the University of Washington. I am the director of the Masters in Human-Computer Interaction and Design department, and I'm also a passionate community convener. I'm the founder of Pacheco Seattle, and just really, community is really my beating heart, and I'm just delighted to be here today. Oh, I should also mention I'm a mom to a wonderful 13-year-old boy, and just really proud to be part of our Seattle community.
Hi, I'm Jen Mankoff. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a white woman in a floral dress, most of which you can't see, with a blue cardigan and very curly, frizzy hair and glasses. And I am the co-director of the Center for Research and Education on Accessible Technology and Experiences, also called CREATE. And we are a UW center. I am also a faculty member in the Allen School of Computer Science and Engineering, and I'm really pleased to be here today. Thank you for including me.
We're really excited to have you both. So Emily and I will let y'all, so Carlos, if you could pull up the slide deck that Anna and Jen prepared for us. So, and you can just cue verbally, but we're excited to see what you have prepared for us.
Golly, and thank you so much, Hollis. I must say your moderation of today's event is so masterful. It's so nice to be in such capable hands. So thank you so much for all you're doing today. And thank you for all of the people who are signing with us. It's just wonderful. So just to dive us in, Davida Ingram asked me to just put together a few slides of my impressions of yesterday's staff day event. Next slide, please. So here goes. The next few slides are just an overview of just the top line moments. The day began with two wonderful keynotes by Dr. Gilda Shepard and Dr. Ben Danielson. Gilda's luminous presence really invited us to examine her film When I've Been Down, and just think about how there is leadership within all of us, and that when we tap into that transformation, even under some of the most difficult circumstances, is not just possible, but absolutely achievable. And Dr. Danielson really showed us the power of care and the courage to care, the courage to speak up and speak out, and also the power of togetherness. It was just really so wonderful to have them both with us. Next slide. The day began with some transcendent performances by J.R. Rhodes and a land blessing by Rachel Heaton, who is a member of the Muckleshoot tribe and the co-founder of the Mazama Talks. Next slide. And then, of course, there were wonderful, wonderful breakout sessions. These are just notes from two of them. The food sovereignty panel really helped us examine the opportunities to have a much more independent, resilient, and healthy food system that's centered on Indigenous ways of knowing. And our funding community budgets breakout session really centered this theory of change and invited us to think about how we allocate funds in a way that is far more deeply in alignment with our shared values. So our next slide, please. And finally, Khingz closed our staff day with the most beautiful and powerful a cappella performances, helping us challenge our community to grow and learn and thrive together, centering vulnerability and resilience as a way to really channel our internal leadership. Just so grateful to Khingz. Next slide. So as we transition to sharing some of the work that we do at the University of Washington in community with so many people across our region, I wanted to bring forward the work of Dr. Martin Luther King and his concept of beloved community, which was really the first and foremost, the most vivid heartbeat of our time together yesterday and today. Dr. King, in a keynote that he delivered in Oberlin in 1965, said, "What we're facing today is that, in fact, through our scientific and technological genius, we've made of this world a neighborhood, and now through our ethical and moral commitment, we must make of it a brotherhood." Those words were spoken over 60 years ago, and they still ring true to this day. Next slide. As a member of the University of Washington and part of our beautiful, beloved community, community is love. Next slide. And innovation is community. Innovation cannot happen without love, and it certainly cannot happen without community. Next slide. So it's my privilege right now to just run through some of the wonderful projects that are being done by my colleagues at the University of Washington in community with many of you who are on this call, and just to share a little bit about this beautiful work. So of course, we all learned about the ASHE initiative that is being directed by Dr. Ben Danielson, looking at tackling youth incarceration. Next slide. And then the work that's happening with the Center for Communication, Diversity, and Equity, led by the remarkable Raylina Joseph and her wonderful team, helping groups, organizations, and programs across the University of Washington center EDI and all of the work that they do. Next slide. These next several slides are work that's being initiated by the College of Built Environments. This project, the Nehemiah Studio, is in partnership with the Nehemiah Initiative, which seeks to collaborate to support local Black churches and institutions in retaining and redeveloping their property in Seattle's high-cost real estate market as a way of combating gentrification and displacement. Next slide. Urban at UW Hacks in Equity, looking at the recognition of ethical, equitable, and effective partnerships and centering them as a critical pathway to achieving positive public impact. Next slide. Another project initiated by the College of Built Environments is the Seattle Street Sync. This is an award-winning collaboration between UW Architecture, Landscape Architecture, Real Change, the City of Seattle, and the Clean Hands Collective, creating hand washing stations that are sustainable and affordable throughout the city. Next slide. Another great project is the ADU Universe assessment tool, which allows homeowners to figure out whether or not they can accommodate an additional unit on their property, helping people take charge of their real estate and creating more access to affordable housing across our city. Next slide. Then, of course, the remarkable work that Jen can talk about a little bit later on in the presentation that's happening at the Paul Allen School of Computer Science. The Allen School has a multitude of programs ensuring that all students have the opportunity to succeed. Examples include Allen Scholars, which is a freshman year program for select students of high potential but lower opportunity, and the Changemakers in Computing program, which is a 1-month summer program for high school students to learn about technology, society, and justice. Next slide. The Paul Allen School is ranked amongst one of the top computer science programs in the world and across our nation, ranking among MIT, Stanford, at Berkeley, Carnegie Mellon, Illinois. It's really amazing to have this resource in our backyard. It has by far the greatest student demand of any program at the University of Washington, and it's known for its unusually rigorous STEM program and has evolved to exceed US UW campus averages for first-generation, Pell-eligible, and Black or African-American students. A great achievement and one that will be expanded upon. Next slide. Then, of course, the remarkable work that's happening at the Center for an Informed Public, so important when we think about the impact of AI and tools like ChatGPT, led by Kate Starboard to combat disinformation and misinformation. Next slide. Another wonderful change agent is Professor Daniela Rosner, who's looking at how we design with community and design with minoritized community, which is so, so important when we think about the impact of design and technology in our world today. Next slide. Then my own program, which centers EDI innovation as part of its mission. Over 50% of our US-based students come from minoritized backgrounds, all of whom receive partial funding for their work within our program. We are excited to be working with Raylina Joseph on a pilot program for an EDI curricular audit, and we continue to partner with EDI experts, both internally and externally, to achieve our mission. Next slide. The Evans School is launching a remarkable program called EPIC, which is a policy lab at the University of Washington to bring together researchers, practitioners, policymakers, and the public to co-design actionable solutions to complex societal problems so that public policy systems serve all individuals equitably and justly. Next slide. And now it is my privilege to give the remaining time to Jen Mankoff, who can talk to us about the remarkable program that she has helped co-found called CREATE. Jen, I'm going to ask you to take it from here. Thank you.
Glad to do so. Yeah, well, I mean, that was just a wonderful listing of some of the things that are happening at the University of Washington. And I want to highlight that many of them are cross-department, as is CREATE. We have 9 founding faculty from 3 different schools and I think 5 or 6 different departments across the University of Washington who participate. And if we turn to the next slide, the overview of the center is that it involves a combination of research, working on the future of accessible technologies, education, meaning that we want to both teach students about accessibility and also make sure that people with disabilities have access to higher education. And then translation work, meaning that we try to take our research out into the community, and we have a very robust partner program, for example, with local nonprofits. Okay, going on to the next slide. Some of the projects that are part of CREATE and more than CREATE as well, because we certainly don't just own any one thing. Project Sidewalk is working to map and assess every sidewalk in the world using crowdsourced analysis of the images that are on Google Street View. We also have a project that's led by John Freilich and Not Cosby, and the Teskar Center have been mapping sidewalks also all over the world with respect to how we can generate maps that meet the needs of specific disabled people. So if I need to avoid hills or I need curb cuts or whatever my specific needs are, can we generate routes that meet those needs? Another project on the next slide that we do at CREATE is we're trying to develop the scientific basis for access. It can often be hard to get insurance companies to pay for early childhood access needs. And so we're trying to demonstrate how having access to mobility devices like a wheelchair early in childhood can impact not only the fun that a child has, but actually change their motor development and their cognitive development. And we do a combination of basic science here, led by Heather Feldner and Kat Steele, and also in collaboration with the iLab Center, and then also making toys and ride-on cars and other things, and giving them away to community members whose children need them. Moving on to the next slide. I want to end by highlighting a really important initiative that CREATE has been working together with the Ellen School, the Simpson Center for Digital Humanities, the Population Health Center, which somehow fell off the slide, and many others across UW, which is to ask how we can do a better job of integrating our understanding of race into our work in disability so that race, technology, and disability can all be addressed in the work that we do. Much of disability work until now has invisibilized the lives of people who live at the intersecting junctures of oppression: disabled people of color, immigrants with disabilities, queers with disabilities, trans and gender nonconforming people with disabilities who are houseless, incarcerated, or have had their ancestral land stolen, amongst others. And I'm reading here because I want to make sure that I'm speaking in the words of the leaders of the disability justice movement, and letting them speak in their own words, I should say. And so we are working together to collaboratively teach, encourage, and then fund work at the intersection of race, technology, and disability, because that is such an understudied area right now, and there's so much that we need to do. Finally, I'll just mention that we also have student groups in CREATE, and Husky Adapt, for example, is partnered with CREATE. And this is just some of the data on the amazing job they've done at getting some of the kinds of work that we do out into the community, as I was mentioning with toys earlier, for example. So if you're interested in joining CREATE's partner program or becoming a member of CREATE as either an organization or as an individual, we'd love to hear it from you. And the URL here, create.uw.edu/news/signup, is a way that you can reach out and ask for more information, you can also email create-contact@uw.edu.
Just in closing, just to amplify what Jen has said, this is all about community and it's about partnership. So let's lead and learn and imagine together. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
I can't hear you, Hollis. I'm so sorry.
I'm just
I know
talking. I'm saying thank you both so much for what you're sharing. And I just wanted to just underscore, I love this idea of bringing innovation and community together instead of seeing innovation as inherently counter to community or that there's inherent tension. How can we embrace and synthesize and find solutions that uplift our most marginalized within our community? So thank you both so much for joining us. We deeply, deeply appreciate it. Fantastic. Well, we are moving right along. And as we shared, the Reflections Dance Festival is coming up soon. But we're going to be entering into this part of the program that honors a full-length documentary that was directed by Dr. Gilda Shepherd, which really embraces the concept of folks that are experiencing incarceration and what restorative and transformative justice looks like. And so there's a great documentary, this documentary called Since I've Been Down, which shares the lives of incarcerated people who are radically transforming their communities and our prisons by pushing towards a deeper collective humanity. And we actually have access to this film as part of the RSJI Summit with a Vimeo link that's going to be shared in the chat, as well. That's password protected, but it's going to be available for y'all to be able to view it through March 27th. Since I've Been Down spotlights Kamonti Carter and follows a wide group of prisoners as they break free from their fate and create a model of education that is transforming their lives, their communities, our prisons, and humanity. So we're going to show y'all 2 clips in succession, and then we're going to actually bring Khingz back onto our screen to have a conversation about the questions that arise for us when it comes to transformative justice. So in this first clip, the star of Since I've Been Down, Kamonti Carter, is going to offer his insights about COVID in prisons. So this is the clip. Go ahead and run it, Carlos.
The conditions of COVID in prison was horrible, to be clear. What's this, February, March? A little bit shorter than this time last year. I was locked in the gym, quarantine. You know what I mean? And this is year 3. And so, the thing that was really unfortunate about, prison conditions was the fact that none of us ever left the prison. So we never brung the virus back to prison. You know what I mean? They brung it to work with them. You know what I mean? And ultimately what it did is it spread like wildfire every single time. And we would have a breakout at least every 90 days at one part of the institution or another. And that's why they always kept it locked down. And so not only did they keep it locked down, it also restricted and a lot of programming. You know what I mean? It also restricted a lot of access to sponsors. It eliminated visiting. It did everything. But what ended up happening is that things was on hold for so long that they kind of used it as a way of developing policy that ultimately fit their needs and their wants, right? More control. And so, that's what ended up coming of the stuff that was the conditions, but it was bad. Like this is how crazy it was, right? It got to a point to where every week, I think it was one. So every week when they come around and they was delivering soaps, right? So the soaps was as a way of to encourage cleanliness. Yeah. So they're literally giving away these little bars of soap as a way of basically saying, you have plenty of time to wash up and all that type of stuff. So now, right, so again, right, the pandemic went on for 3 years. And so now 6-7 months into the pandemic, they coming around every week giving out a bar of soap for cleanliness, right? And so now you have cats who've essentially accumulated quite a few bars of soap. But now that you've accumulated all of these bars of soap, they're coming into your cell, and now because the policy says you only can have 2 bars of soap in use, now they're literally infracting people. There's no recourse, right? Like, how do you tell the folks to, you know, stop coming up in here and exposing us to the without them hauling you off to the hole? And some brothers did that. You know what I mean? Some brothers refused to get swabbed. Some brothers was making sure that when anytime somebody who came from the outside came into a unit, they was making sure they had PPE gear on. Like, it was, but at the end of the day, it wasn't like they didn't give a damn about us. You know what I mean? Because they wasn't changing their protocol. And then every time that you ask them a good question, oh, well, this comes from headquarters. And so, you know, I think that one of the saddest things about the pandemic is there was a couple of people that I knew that died in Stafford Creek that I knew personally. And it's, you know, and it's unfortunate to kind of see how things go, because that's what they was doing. When people was catching it in the beginning, all they was doing was just locking you in the cell. You know what I mean? And so, but it was messed up. But it's like, what do you expect when you give the responsibility of the Department of Corrections to take care of people? You know what I mean? Like, that's like, you know.
Yeah, so we just want to thank Kamonte Carter for his reflections there and his words, and it really kind of brings to mind the concept that Ruth Wilson Gilmore put into words, which is this concept of organized neglect. What does it look like when the folks that are incarcerated are being neglected in a systematic way, in a way that causes confusion and actually puts their lives in peril, even more so than just standard institutionalized incarceration. So right now we're going to watch another conversation that features Kamonte as well, but also brings in the voices of community members Marie Wiley, as well as the director of the film Since I've Been Down, Dr. Gilda Shepard. And Marie is going to start this conversation off. And first, we want to make sure that we're underscoring and bringing to the center of the conversation women who are incarcerated that are frequently forgotten in this conversation. And so Marie is going to be starting out talking about her relationship with Gilda and what it was like to form community through the process of this documentary and community building. So please run the clip.
She was coming in and she was teaching some classes that I was not able to participate. However, she said that it would not be her last time and that she would be back. And by the time she had gotten back, I was a part of the Black Prisoners Caucus. In the facility, we were organizing and creating a summit for legislation. So we were trying to put something together for some bills, invite some people in so that our voices could be elevated. I met Kamonte after that sentence was completed, face to face. But we had both been doing the same work in different facilities, right? And so our camaraderie had already been stamped and sealed. And so when I came home, both Dr. Gilda Shepard and Kamonte just welcomed me in with open arms. They showed me what support and community and family looked like. And it's been a beautiful, growing relationship ever since. I feel like in order to belong, I have to do some healing, right? Nobody else can make me feel like I belong anywhere. I have to know that within myself. I have to overcome the traumas that I've had to deal with in my life to heal before I can feel that belonging, you know, feel whole. I came home last year in January, and that transition was pretty rough for me. I had done a great job of networking while I was incarcerated and building relationships with people outside. And I came home to some of that support, right? And I think I was not as responsible with it at first as I could have been. And then I seen a lot of things that I weren't expecting, seeing that people were allowing people to fall through the cracks, right? And so when I seen that happening and I got reconnected with the brothers from the Black Prisoner Caucus who had also just came home, and they were saying, we're about to do this. We're about to bring BPC in the community. We're doing it right now. And I said, and I'm here for it, and I want to be here for it. And it's been a part of my healing process as well, you know, showing up for people and showing up to places and telling people my story and my experiences and allowing them to just get a little peek of the injustices that I've had to face, right? As a young Black woman in America that's been impacted by the justice system. So these are all the different things that I've had to face when I came home. And facing those things, they weren't easy, but when I got the support that I needed from the people who look like me and been through what I've been through, it became easier, right?
Keeping in mind that in pandemic times, we are talking about public safety. So I think we have Monty back with us because of policy work and organizing that said we cannot punish our children when we do not keep them safe.
During pandemic times, I think that if we're talking about in reference to proximity, I would just really help them to understand is that like you are the company that you keep, right? And so now when we get to talking about like the different type of connotations that means, your parents don't want you to hang around with other bad kids or with kids that are kind of labeled bad because for the fear of you getting in trouble. Right. And so that's why you're told to stay away from those kids, right? Because your parents feel that the proximity to those kids who cause trouble is ultimately going to end up being the thing that causes you to be in trouble. Right. And I also think that though the proximity is also true when it comes to resources. Right. Proximity. I think that when we begin to eliminate the distance between us and the resources, I think then we begin to have a clear understanding about exactly what it takes in order for us to acquire those things. That's what I meant by proximity, right? I think that regardless of whether we're talking about a problem or whether we're talking about a solution, right? We still need to be able to make sure that we are centering those folks who are impacted. And that right there, I think just helps us to be able to just keep things fair. When we're talking about young folks, right, we're just trying to help them understand is that you're not supposed to have all the answers. You shouldn't have to feel bad about that, right? Because you're in that point in your life to where you're finding yourself, right? And so don't let nobody rush your process. I think that would be my continuous message is that kids don't have to be in a rush to grow up. Right. And, and young folks who are young adults, like you don't have to go out into the world and solve all of the world's problems and yours over a weekend. You know what I mean? Like you're supposed to be given some grace. So.
Wow, really powerful reflections. We just really want to thank Monty Carter, Marie Wiley, Dr. Gilda Shepherd, and our very own Davida Ingram for hosting that conversation. And so I'm excited to bring back my co-host, Emily Lawson, as well as the illustrious Khingz, who's going to be rounding us out with a performance before we have a closing address from Edwin Lindo. So I'm just curious for y'all, like what came up for you in those two clips? Like what's on your mind? What's on your heart? Like what is really resonating for y'all right now? And we'd love to hear in the chat what's coming up for y'all after watching those two clips.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, you want to go first?
Okay. I was just reminded of, the work of Grace Lee Boggs. I actually learned about transformative justice from her and the youth in Detroit Summer, who I, had the privilege of volunteering with for many years. But, she always said, in order to transform the world, we need to be able to transform ourselves, right? And I really heard that here with, the participants in the film. Khingz?
For me, a lot of emotions come up. Growing up as a Black male, there's a lot of fear of jail, of jail being able to just happen to you, regardless if you're doing anything or not. And then when you actually get involved in things that could send you to prison, you there's like an anxiety that comes with that, and that it's helping me realize so much of that anxiety isn't necessarily just the fear of jail, but it's like the fear that once you're caught into the system, your value in society is essentially gone, you know, like, and there's no, it often feels like you have to avoid this thing, because once it happens, your life in a very real way is forfeit. Like if you get shot and killed by somebody and you've been to prison, it's automatically not their fault. You know what I mean? And there's like, it's, you know, like depending on what kind of conviction, even it doesn't really matter what kind of conviction. And it's like, when I see this kind of work that's happening, both while people are incarcerated and outside, there's like this feeling like, that there are people that aren't willing to give up on someone or to throw a person away, you know, like to be able to just, I don't know, be able to come back to the world and do your thing, you know what I'm saying, and live your life and not automatically be considered the bad guy because of what had happened in the past. And so I guess like all those kind of feelings came up for me whenever I interact with that particular part of the quote unquote justice system.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think, like, you know, I can hear your words and I can bear witness to them and I can feel the things, but ultimately, like, I don't know what it's like to be in your body in this world. And like that level of anxiety and fear and just like kind of, I think I'm still sitting with how you started your sharing of like, it can just happen to you. Like you could actually literally just be existing, right? It's not like, and I think this whole concept of like cause and effect or like the type of justice that's being served, it's like there's such like a deep permeating like vicious injustice that's constantly omnipresent for Black folks, for Black men in our community. And it's just, yeah, it's just something that those of us who aren't like need to be not only aware of, but like be actively working to call out. And so, yeah, I'm wondering for y'all, like what comes up for you in terms of like the concepts of transformative justice? Like, is there a question that you have about transformative justice that you leave this conversation with?
I think when it comes to transformative justice, it's like the concept of it makes sense to me, but it's like, how is it that we can like make that idea or present that idea to more people and then actually start incorporating it to where it's part of the way we think about like sentencing, if we're even going to think about it like that in the future, but like thinking about like when we're looking at how to really implement it into like policies that will, so that when people's lives are actually getting affected, it's not just the community members, but also the systems that are set up that are looking to use these things to kind of make the situation better for everyone involved. And how do we get there?
It's so true. You know, I'm thinking about like all the staff, City of Seattle staff. I mean, there's got to be thousands of y'all out there, and you know, who also may be online too. You know, think about like how can we incorporate everything we've learned these past 2 days, especially in terms of transformative justice in our own everyday work, right? I work for For Culture. I'm blessed to be able to work there now for the last year, and you know, in our mission, we lead right with the lens of racial equity, you know. But it's one thing to say that, right? It's another thing to do something about it. And so I want to challenge and invite all of the staff who are listening in today or in the future or who attended yesterday to take everything that we learned from this summit and just take it to heart and to do something, to take even just one little action to transform yourself, right? To transform our world.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing, Emily. And thank you, Khingz, for sharing. And obviously, I think what I hear in both of y'all's like reflections is, you know, we can understand something in concept, we can understand something in theory, but how are we putting it into practice? How are we having conversations that actually make these concepts tangible? how are we making them real, and how are we like feeling them in a real way so that we can understand how to implement them. And I think that takes sharing. I think that takes dialogue, and that takes really like an investment in being courageous and imagining a different world than the one we have now. So to that end, somebody that has always inspired me to think bigger and broader and bolder about a world that transcends the one that we have now is indeed Khingz, incredible artist, and we're excited for him to be sharing a performance before we kick it to our closing speaker, Edwin Lindo. So Khingz, you have the floor.
All right. This is like a newer one. I might mess up a little bit. It's called Not Your Fault. It's like the track was produced by my friend Nguyen Cook the Beat, who's out in Vietnam right now, kicking it. But I'm not using the beat. I'm just going to do the words. This song is actually about door dashing and what I think about when I'm door dashing. I just want to ball and raise my son, though. I don't even want to fall in love, though. I don't never want to hold a grudge, no. I just want my moment in the, yeah. Late night, AM once again, I'm on my own. It's a date night, and I'm taking out somebody dough. What the chase like? Ask when my dear, the one who knows. She got way too much control. Always knock me out my zone. What the wait like? Tell me what the fate like. Tell me what I taste like. I've been on the grave shift, slipping through the daylight, whipping in my slave ship, trying to wear this chain right. Trap my devils in the page. My bars are for the cage right, like it's been a cakewalk, even with the stage fright. Have my money. Have that money clingy as a stage fright, just by talking ish and hiding feelings right in plain sight. Hope somebody know me as I am, not as they say, cause I just want to ball and raise my son, though. I don't even want to fall in love, though. I don't ever want to hold a grudge, no. I just want my moment in the sun, yeah. Illest freestyle in my life, I had the rain in my face. My brother Dion by my side expressing pain and self-hate. I found out that in a rhyme there is much more I can say. A lot more I admit. It's my best way to pray. Okay, it's midnight, lake looking right, moon full and bright, trying to groom to the money, but this world full of spite. In a gram full of lights, you're just like your father, which is just like your father, who was just like the father he didn't want to be like. I want to be honest, I don't want to be right. Great would be great, but I would settle for four eyes, but only see me on beats. As long as baby know I love him, then my chaos is peace. Cause I just want to ball and raise my son, though. I don't even want to fall in love, no. I don't ever want to hold a grudge, no. I just want my moment in the, yeah. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Khingz, so much for that performance. I think highly relatable. And appreciate you. We'll see you back in just a second. But I am excited to bring on our final guest for our closing ceremony of the RSJI Summit. We have Edwin Lindo, who's about to take the stage. He is a husband, a father, a fighter for justice, a critical race theory scholar, an educator, and co-founder of Estelita's Library. So without much further ado, please welcome to the stage, Edwin Lindo. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, Hollis, I appreciate you. I first just want to thank you, Davida, the whole crew at Office for Civil Rights, and the folks watching, and also yesterday, the staff that were in the audience. I don't know if they fully appreciate that y'all have put together a program of beautiful scene of Black and brown interpreters, that we got one on the screen, Black and brown performers. You want to talk about equity and justice. Davida, Hollis, the whole team are doing it, right? And I want to take note of that because it's not an easy task. It's not something that's taken lightly, and I know they commit their life to it even when folks are sick with COVID. And that's a real thing. And what y'all have seen for the past 2 days is something special. From Ben Danielson in the keynote to my sister Rachel Heaton speaking truth words about our Indigenous folks, along with Matt Remley and Khingz with his music and art. I'm just blessed and grateful to be able to share some remarks, some closing remarks with you. I don't have much time, but I want to highlight, because if there's anything we take away, I want to highlight what Kamanti said in one of the videos. He said, let's eliminate the distance to the resources. I'm going to say that again. Let's eliminate the distance to the resources. And if we continue on that thought, the distance between where that money and resource and capitals are and the community that needs it, the folks that have been dispossessed, the folks that are unhoused, the folks that are struggling, the folks that are just trying to get their basic health care, the folks who can't afford to get the prescription when they go to the corner store, the folks that you see in your neighborhood on a Tuesday and then on a Thursday, you realize they're not there anymore. Those folks. And that means it's going to take some radical thought, some radical imagination. And when I say radical, I've heard it for most of my life, Edwin, you can't say that word too loud, especially not in certain settings. But the radical I'm talking about is the radical that our sister, Dr. Professor Angela Davis told us. Right? She said radical in its pure definition means to get to the root of something, to get to the bottom of it, to understand its source. And so when I say radical, I mean, when are we going to get to the root of the issues that we've been talking about for the last 2 days? It means we have to be radical. It means we have to ask ourselves, what is the most radical thing we can do today, this week, this month, this year? Because if we aren't willing to take that most radical step, then our communities are going to continue to struggle. We're going to continue to struggle. When I say we're, I mean, I'm talking about folks who may believe that they are not at the behest of oppression. But the truth is that when our folks are struggling in the streets, when they're struggling in the classrooms, our youngsters are hurt, feel that they're unsafe, then that means the white person who's living in Queen Anne, who may feel that they are safe, in all reality, their young children that goes to school with that youngster that I just mentioned is going to be struggling because their friend is hurt. And if we're going to continue to allow our children to live in a broken society, in a broken environment, then it means we don't actually care as much as we say we do. And so in thinking what is the most radical thing we can do, it's also the most difficult work that we have to imagine. In many ways, we're talking about a world, a city, a society that we haven't seen before. We're talking about a city that we haven't imagined before. We're talking about a place of justice that we've never felt before. And knowing that to be true, it means we have to do the incredibly difficult work of using the imagination of freedom. That imagination that my dad told me when I was young, he said, Edwin, I got to tell you something at a very young age, and I don't like saying it to you, but I need you to realize that you cannot be limited by the reality you exist in, because it's not you. It's a reality that exists to try to make you stay where you are, and we have to break it. And so how do we exist? How do we imagine that just world that isn't held captive to the so-called realities of, but this is the way we've always done it. Oh, this is what the research tells us. Oh, I don't know any other way to do it. Well, that's where the imagination comes in. But I'm going to tell you something. That imagination is a muscle that we haven't exercised very often. And it is now our time and our obligation with our youngsters, because they have it, to exercise that imagination of the world that we've never seen before. And it's almost like you're being that comic book illustrator, imagining the world like Octavia Butler, that we have never felt, we have never touched, we have never sensed. But I know in the dreams that I've had that that place is real. That place is sufficient, and that place means that every one of us, particularly those of us who our Constitution made sure we weren't written into, it meant for us in that place, we belong. Because as our sister said from the Black Prisoner Caucus, belonging means that we have to heal the broken and the harm that the system has placed on us, and that healing means that we have to imagine that world we have never seen. It is an honor to be here with y'all. I'm grateful, I'm blessed, and I'm super thankful.
Thank you so much, Edwin. We really, really appreciate your words. I love, you evoked so many quotes and sentiments and aspirations, and just from Angela Davis's radical means grasping at the root to our very own Pacific Northwest visionary, Octavia Butler.
Yes.
We can look to these organizers, these authors, and think about the world that we have to envision, and just your call to really center young people and children in our vision and in our call is so important.
Yes. And thank you for your work with Estelita's library. I think we gave you a bunch of books, so hope that continues. Thank you so much.
Is there anything you want to shout out before you take off and we move on to the Reflections Dance Festival?
We're going to have a grand opening with our new space and a running bathroom. We take care of our folks, our unhoused folks, from the porta potty that we have that's open for all community use to our new bathroom that will do the same. And we got to make sure we take care of each other.
All right. Peace and blessings to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Right on.
Thank you. And that's all about collective care. Thank you so much, Edwin, Lindo. What incredible words to end our program on. I can't believe we're at the end. Emily, it's been so dope co-hosting with you.
The end of us, but there's another hour of
there
amazing Reflections Dance Festival.
And yes, without much further ado, we are going to bring on your co-hosts that are going to take us away into Reflections Dance Festival. We got Khingz and we got Perla Perez. What's up, y'all?
Peace, fam.
Yo.
You got Elise Beers coming up, Akoiya Harris, Milvia, and my sister friend Naomi Bragin, and Moonyeka coming up. Take it away, y'all. Enjoy.
Hey, thank you guys for holding it down, though. You guys did such a good job. It was so fun watching you up here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Peace.
I'm about to take my little screenshot. That's like the selfie for virtual events. I'm like, hey, I love it. Well, I'm so excited to be able to take part in this next part. And if y'all want to introduce yourselves really quickly, but I think that me and Emily are going to skirt off.
Peace.
Bye.
Thanks, Emily. Thanks, Hollis. Hey, everybody. So I'd like to introduce my co-host, Khingz. He's an independent artist from South Seattle.
Yep. And I would like to introduce my co-host, Perla, a multidisciplinary artist from Seattle and a civic worker at the Office of Civil Rights.
Thank you.
All right, cool. I guess we're just going to get into this?
Yeah, I think we can kick off with the land acknowledgement. If you'd like to take it away.
Yeah, again, like we said earlier today, I would like to acknowledge that Seattle itself is on Native Indigenous land, particularly of the Duwamish tribe, and that the lands and waters around here are also significant and important to a number of other Coast Salish people, including Muckleshoot and Squamish folk, and the Tulalip, and also recognizing that just acknowledging whose land we're on isn't enough to counteract or even address the injustices that have been done to even have us be here. And I just want to thank the land and the people who take care of it.
Thank you, Khingz. So we're going to start off with our first performance by Elise Beers, Unangax, called Anax, the Sky Woman, Falling to New Heights. I wanted to give you guys a little bit of information about this performer. Elise Beers is an enrolled member of the ACLU-WA Native American tribe. She's the Seattle-based choreographer, filmmaker, photographer, and dancer with Earthworks. Currently, she's studying for her MFA in filmmaking over at AFI. Her passion for dance is inspired by nature and her love of lifelong full-body wellness. Her passion, or Beers Reflections piece that you'll be seeing shortly, is inspired by the story of Anax, the Sky Woman, who fell to the earth through an uprooted tree in the stars and created Turtle Island. Quote, "We are all here on native land provided by our Anax," says Beers. Quote, "In this dance, we will explore falling and rising in multiple perspectives. Reciprocity is key to survival. Sky Woman was saved from her fall, and so she still gives," end quote. As with the Sky Woman, the dance sweeps in gestural movements. Quote, "The floating images of the dance coalesce to capture the sense of falling from the sky. As an Indigenous artist, I aim to restore the current Native art within our fine dance landscapes. We are still here," end quote. And guys, would love to hear from you as we experience this performance. If you have any comments, feel free to comment what the dance resonates with you, what feelings it evokes, and we'll take it away.
Yeah, thank you.
know, can I cry, mama? I just wanna know, will I survive, mama? They don't know my ancestors' pain. They don't even see what their ancestors gained. When I first saw Black Panther, it almost brought me to tears. I always wanted a Wakanda in my younger years. We never wanted to snitch, but then we feel ourselves. And the problematic people always got throwing themselves. Systematically oppressed, we've seen our brothers taken away. Growing numb to seeing them cuffed like it's just another day. And whenever they get cuffed, there's no rehabilitation. All them papers been signed, but missing phone generations. Yeah, we know how it goes when they get locked up for years. Some self-medicate, some drown in their beers. Institutionalism creates a neurologic style. That's why you see so many convicts and veterans living at the bar, numbing the pain, trying to heal within the racer. And sooner or later, he ain't gonna need that chaser. Cops call on a brown man with some aimless aggression. I already knew to pray for his family before they came to arrest him. If these obstacles were like water, then goddamn it, I'd be drowning. Wonder why I look so stoic, but never ask why I'm frowning. Check our brain waves and see the same as war zones, cause we've been losing so many in our simulated homes. Self-sustainability replacing welfare. We've been searching for some healing since they cut off our hair. Since they changed all of our names and they took our mother's language, we gon' self-medicate and you gon' label us as strangers. Shit just doesn't add up and it'll never make sense. But if you're searching for some change, let the youth give their 2 cents. A non-native asked, can I say suicide risk? I looked them in the eyes and said those words never had to exist. Colonized, orphanized, assimilate to the fullest with the low population, with high numbers with the bullets. There's been so much trauma, it's time to heal with some truth. So to all you John Waynes, keep your fucking boots. And I just wanna know, can I cry, mama? I just wanna know, will I survive, mama? They don't know my ancestors' pain. They don't even see what their ancestors gain. And I just wanna know, can I cry, mama? I just wanna know, will I survive, mama? They don't know my ancestors' pain. They don't even see what the fucking ancestors gain.
Wow.
Thank you. Wow, that was beautiful. That was a performance by Elise. Just want to give a quick shout out to Converge Media. Thank you guys for the live stream and for all you do.
Yeah.
Um,
Elite Connection, which is their like on the ground production team that they used to.
Yes, definitely. Khingz, what did this performance bring up for you? Like what resonated?
It was a couple of things. One, I meant collective, elite collective. Sorry, and then two, I feel like as an artist, I have a lot of respect for dance as an art medium, because I know for me with beats and my friends with me and like and being able to use my words to still embody so many feelings in my actual body while I'm performing is so it's taxing, and it makes it like I don't want to perform every day. I like writing every day, but performing every day I can't do that because
Right.
it does
Yeah.
take a lot out of you. And so like especially with this sort of like embodying this the what I know of the story of this like ancestor coming down from the roots of a tree that are above us, which is like a crazy concept and like deserves like a while to unpack. But mixing that with especially that first song, and then having just watched those clips from Kimante and Marie Taylor, that was they really connected, and like just like this idea of moving your body in a just being able to move your body how you want is like is
Yeah, it's
not something
beautiful.
not something everybody has at all times. And like I don't know, and I was just impressed with her ability to embody that. How about you?
Thank you. Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to express yourself in a story through movement. And yeah, this piece definitely, I felt, you know, the turmoil of falling, and then also the rise and the resilience in that story. So yeah, it was really beautiful. It really resonated with me.
What was
And
your
also,
oh sorry
oh, no, I was going to say the thing that stood out to me too was the transition in the song choice.
yeah
Did
yeah
that kind of also catch you off guard, but in
yeah
a kind of a interesting way?
It felt like, and again, like because I'm combining what I know of the story, which isn't much. It felt like the first part was the with all the energy was kind of like the falling or the coming out of the
Yeah.
roots in the sky and then falling down, and then that last part was sort of like standing up again. Is how it felt.
Yeah, and grounding yourself
Right.
and rising up again. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
All right. And
You ready
Khalil,
for the next one?
what's the second one?
All right, so this next one is by Akoiya Harris, When Tomorrow Comes. Oh, I'm just going to read this because I think it was written really well. Seattle-based movement artist Akoiya Harris is a graduate of the ACLU School Certificate Program and has performed as a company artist with Donald Byrd Spectrum Dance Theater. Akoiya describes her reflections piece as an embodiment of our future as Black queer people. We exist in an imaginative state capable of building a world that is safe for us. We can rest in the future, be celebrated, feel joy while engulfed in the warmth of community. This piece wonders and reminds us to that in the future is endless and exciting, yet still requires great effort to get to. Yeah, I was really touched by how that was written.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
very
beautiful.
excited to see this. I already have so many feelings about this and I haven't even seen it yet. So.
I know, right? It's exciting. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, let's go run the clip.
My lover is a woman, and when I hold her, feel her warmth, I feel good, feel safe. Then I never think of my family's voices, never hear my sisters say, bulldaggers, queers, funny, come see us, but don't bring your friends. It's okay with us, but don't tell mama, it'd break her heart. Come see us, but don't bring your friends. It's okay with us, but don't tell mama, it'd break her heart. Don't tell mama, it'd break her heart. Don't tell mama, it'd break her heart. Never feel my father turn in his grave, never hear my mother cry, Lord, what kind of child is this? I hear my mother cry, Lord, what kind of child is this? And I can hear my mother cry, Lord, what kind of child is this? I can hear my mother cry, Lord, what kind of child is this? And I can hear my mother cry, Lord, what kind of child is this? And I can hear my mother cry, Lord, what kind of child is this? I can hear my mother cry, Lord, what kind of child is this? And I can hear my mother cry, Lord, what kind of child is this? And when we walk the streets of the city, forget and touch or hold hands, and the people stare, glare, frown, and taunt at those queers, I remember every word taught me, every word said to me, every deed done to me. And then I hate. I look at my lover and for an instant doubt. Then I hold her hand tighter and I can hear my mother cry, Lord, what kind of child is this? What kind of child is this? What kind of child is this? Not be let's go be Lord, what kind of child is this? Not be let's go be Lord, what kind of child is this?
Whoa, that was intense.
Yeah.
Right. That was how a lot of feelings come up through that one. How about you? What resonated with you, Perla?
Yeah, that was a really powerful piece. And just the story that Akoiya was able to express, it just seeing how at the end, embracing their identity loudly and proudly, that was so empowering, and it gave me goosebumps just to see that. It's just beautiful piece and just very powerful. But what did it bring up for you? How did it resonate?
Certain parts of it, like the very beginning before the music kicked in, hearing the reciting of the poem, especially what manner of child is this, it felt like fingers being in my gut, and like it like hurt my feelings. And I was like,
yeah.
And I was like, man, I feel like I have been that person who has said, it's cool around us, but don't let the older people know, and without at the time thinking about what am I asking a person to hide, and I feel like in those times I think, well, I hide parts of myself. I was hiding like the fact that I like science fiction. It's not even on the same level as like what that was, and like just like, I don't know, had me thinking about like words and actions and of my own and what harm they can cause, and sort of needing to like get down. I don't know, man. It brought up a lot of feelings.
No, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
What you mean. Yeah, I felt the same way as far as, a lot of times I think, and we're growing, I feel, as a society, we're growing and learning how to do better. But I know what you mean as far as feeling like, sometimes we're told to hide a part of ourselves to not make others uncomfortable.
Right.
And, like, I think even those folks saying that don't understand the impact at that time that it has on the individual we're asking to maybe, don't tell somebody.
Yeah. It's like, don't be yourself around the people that you love the most.
Yeah. And it's, difficult to be on either end of that conversation. But, it's, I think, Akoiya beautifully was able to show us how she went from, how they went from being on that receiving end of don't tell people who you are to silencing that noise and really just embracing their identity. And once they did that, the noise just
Kind
dissipated.
of fell away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah, no, I was definitely that piece was like I said, it was intense. It was a lot of things. I think I'm gonna have to watch that maybe 4 or 5 more times and sit with myself and ask myself some serious questions.
Definitely.
Yeah.
No, I hear
Very
you.
appreciative of that.
Yeah, thank you, Akoiya Harris. Moving on to our third performance with Naomi Bragin and Milvia Pacheco. This piece is called Umalalengua Okan. Naomi Bragin is a dancer, artist, scholar, and educator at the School of Interdisciplinary Arts at the University of Washington in Bothell. Milvia Pacheco is also a dancer, painter, poet, and executive director of Movimiento Afro-Latino Seattle. Since 2019, Bragin and Pacheco have collaborated on Little Brown Language, which involves researching submerged histories of resistance to colonial encounters in Venezuela and the Philippines, reinterpreted as dance incantations. Together, they blend cultural syncretism and portal and share and play with each other's languages. Their Reflections piece is an extension of Little Brown Language, performances and workshops at the intersection of healing, ritual, and art. Quote, "In this dance, a cosmic foot stomps," the artists say. "Watch these moments map meeting points, reconnecting lost paths of relation. Where to? Where language meets ports unknown. They harbor our dance," end quote. This soundtrack for the piece is by Washington, D.C. musicians who fuse techno and house music. And let's take it away. Ooh, an amazing performance
Wow.
by Naomi Bragin and Milvia Pacheco. So, Khingz, what do you think? What did that bring up for you?
I think specifically the part where they were dancing on top of the wooden platforms. It was like, and then going between what you read out in their bio, it reminded me of watching my sister's mom perform when she would go dance, and I don't know, there's something I don't know, something about that. It clicked with me with the idea of them, like you say, like playing with each other's language and also finding home in things that are familiar but not from where you're from. If that makes sense.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
kinda
Yeah.
how it hit me.
Hmm.
How
Yeah.
about
No,
you?
I agree. That part where I was going to mention it too. So it's funny that you mentioned the part where they were dancing on the boxes.
Yeah.
One thing that stood out to me during that part was when they were shouting Mary full of grace.
Mhm.
And that to me, it told the story that, when the Spanish colonized those areas, they really were, in that story, that's what they were pushing onto the indigenous cultures. And I think that that's just interesting that they included that in the dance because it's I'm Latina, and
Mhm.
I just see a lot of similarities in the cultures where the Spanish colonized the areas, and yeah, it's just really interesting. But the whole dance was really just powerful, and at the end, that peaceful, just kind of where they meet each other and they recognize the similarities.
Yeah. And
being
they
from-
lean on each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was
Top
great.
notch. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to the homeboy Footsum Sagai and Bean, Waterfront Seattle, Seattle Public Library, Washington Community Alliance, Central District Forum for Arts and Ideas, and Seattle Office of Arts and Cultures. Is there a South End district, like a South End Forum for Arts and Ideas? I want to know.
But shout out if there is one.
Yeah, shout out.
Yes,
I'm on my way if there is one.
Yeah.
Let's get into this last performance. Shout out Michael B. Main. We're going to do some more after this last one. This next one is Moonyeka. She's this one is called Sigh-rens, a wail, a cry, a threat. I've been told this one is a lot more meditative, and it's our last one, so it's going to be sort of like our bringing the energy down a little bit, and but still profound. I'm going to read their bio. Moonyeka, they, them, is a trans non-binary Ilocano-Filipina shapeshifter, witch, teaching artist, curator, scholar, and interdisciplinary artist. That made me more excited as I read each word. With a specialty in dance and harnessing their erotic power for communal enchantment, transformation, and liberation for their community. A 2022 Velocity Dance Center creative artist, Moonyeka describes their reflections piece as biorhythmographic research manifesting as an interdisciplinary performance utilizing Aswang myth and legend. Oh, wow. Artists in this piece include Zara Martina, a dancer, Juno, a vocalist, Jessica Jones, trumpet, Kiki Robinson, vocalist, and Otto Berry on saxophone. In the spirit of remything, this exploration honors siren spirits as oceanic death allies and alchemizing sin and laying to rest those in the queer trans diaspora who have endured death cycles and are thriving in the face of impossibility. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. With the Aswang myth. If you don't know what an Aswang is, I highly suggest you Google that real quick because it would take too long to break it down. But yeah, I'm excited to get into this. Y'all ready?
We're ready.
I feel like I should be asking somebody like to make some noise, but we're going to go into this. Let's run the clip. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was beautiful. That was just, it provided some sort of like calm, but also like a sadness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what did it bring up for you?
You know, it made me think, as a person who makes music, I find like the music starts off in a feeling place, like in my heart. And then I translate that out into a sound. And from that, people translate that sound through their body by dancing to it. I think like music could benefit, because there's that the music that was behind that was just, it was like it was very intriguing for me. And I was like, I think music could benefit from more people who dance making music and interpreting it first through their body, then into the sound, and then seeing what it would sound like going that way, as opposed to the other way around. It it was amazing.
Yeah, no, I think that's a beautiful way to put it too. Having just both the dance and the instruments and the music, all of it just really created an experience, one that was really profound. And yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah. One thing I felt from all of these pieces was like, you know, they all seem to have like a ritualistic element, like something like whether it was reenacting a moment from like our shared like mytho history, or just the way like Akoiya like separated and put these different objects in a circle. Each one had the air of ceremony around it. And I that's something also I find interesting, that dance seems to bring to the table a lot more often than some other art forms.
Yeah, I agree. Dance is a very healing thing for our bodies. And also having the performances at the waterfront near the water, that other element of healing. So it was all beautifully thought out, really beautiful.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. All right. Well, that was our last one. I want to thank everybody for showing up, everyone who put in some work. I want to give a big shout out to Converge Media and Elite Collective again, and saying it right this time. I want to shout out specifically to the homie Carlos Umani, the producer, the whole crew at Converge, and everyone who's worked on the live stream. You guys have done an amazing job. Want to give a big shout out to all of our ASL interpreters. You guys are amazing. Like, even your faces, I just like, you actually enhanced this thing for me as well. So thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, they're gonna show some of those clips again afterwards, and you guys have a great night.